I once worked with someone who described this moment. They came into work one morning and a colleague said, almost in passing, "Oh, the person who usually sits next to you is off sick. Vomiting bug." And in that instant, their body decided, not consciously, not logically, by lunchtime, they'd already resolved, I'm not going to eat for the next week. If I don't eat, I can't be sick. Not because they wanted to starve themselves, but because their body believed this was the only way to stay safe. Do you recognise that kind of moment? The speed, the certainty, the drastic internal rule. This video is for you, because what we call emetophobia isn't irrational thinking. It's a signal pointing to something much deeper than fear of vomiting. And if you want to start building the skills that help your system respond differently, step by step and at your own pace, you can explore them at PsycheVita.com or in the PsycheVita app. I'm Dr. Tony Weston. I'm a psychotherapist, executive coach and award-winning researcher. Over the years, I've worked with many people whose lives have been narrowed by this fear. Often thoughtful, capable people who've tried reassurance, logic, and behavioural strategies without lasting change. In this video, I want to show you 3 things. 1. What this fear is really responding to. 2. Why it operates beneath thought and behaviour. 3. What kind of healing actually helps when fear is procedural, or the signal is really saying, let's name something clearly. Emetophobia is not fundamentally about vomiting. It's about loss of internal safety. For many people, the fear begins before their mind could think clearly about danger, and in some cases before language even existed. Pre-verbal, sometimes pre-memory, occasionally even pre-birth. The body learned procedures for survival at a time when there were no words, no reflective thinking, and often no reliable adult available to help regulate distress. These are internal procedures, automatic ways the system learned to respond to threat, tightening, controlling intake, avoiding uncertainty, eliminating risk at any cost. Not beliefs, not choices, procedure. Why cognition and behaviour come too late? This is why reassurance rarely works. You can know you're safe and still feel in danger. That's because these procedures were laid down before cognition and before organised behaviour. Before a child could think, I'll avoid that. Before a child could choose, I'll do something different. The body had only one job, survive. So the fear doesn't respond to logic, statistics, positive thinking, facing it through willpower. Those arrive after the procedure has already fired. Healing, therefore, can't rely on cognition alone. It has to work at the same depth the problem was created, somatically, emotionally, and at the level of self-evaluation, especially where a sense of worth was never reliably mirrored by caregivers. What deep procedural healing looks like. Procedural healing isn't about erasing fear. It's about creating new internal procedures, new default responses to adversity. So instead of sensation leads to danger, leads to control, the system gradually learns sensation leads to containment, leads to survival without collapse. This is slow work, gentle work, repetitive work, and it often looks deceptively simple from the outside, but internally it's a profound reorganization, especially for people whose early environments required extreme strategies just to get through. Emetophobia is just one expression of this pattern. The same procedural learning shows up in social anxiety, fear of scrutiny, panic in relationships, over-control in leadership roles. Different surface fears, same underlying issue. What happens to me if I'm overwhelmed and alone? In the next episode, I'll explore how this same kind of procedural trauma shows up in social anxiety and why it's not really about people at all. Because this kind of healing is experiential, I haven't included a long practice here. Instead, I've created a short PsycheScription and a downloadable worksheet that guide this work gently and safely without forcing exposure or relying on insight alone. If you live with this fear, there's nothing wrong with you. Your body did exactly what it needed to do when it had limited options. This isn't about pushing harder or thinking better. It's about building the capacities that allow safety to emerge from within. You can find those skills at PsycheVita.com and in the PsycheVita app. You're not broken. You're responding to a history and learning something new.